Narayan Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudiriya Nashtaprayeshu Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevayam Bhagavati Uttam Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtaki. So continuing with the discussion on Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita, Adi Lila, Chapter 7, Lord Chaitanya in 5 features, text 111. So some technical aspect that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is speaking on. So slowly we'll get towards the Leela part. ब्रह्मा शब्द मुख्य अर्थ है कहे भगवान चिद ऐश्वर्य परिपूर्ण अनूर्ध्व समान अनूर्ध्व समान. According to direct understanding, the absolute truth is the Supreme Personality of Godhead who has all spiritual opulences. No one can be equal to or greater than him. This statement by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is confirmed in Srimad Bhagavatam. Vadanti tatta tattva vidas tattvam yad jnanam advayam brahmeti paramatmeti bhagwaniti shabdyate. Learned transcendentalists who know the absolute truth call this non-dual substance Brahman, Paramatma or Bhagavan. The absolute truth is ultimately understood as Bhagavan, partially understood as Paramatma and vaguely understood as the impersonal Brahman. Bhagavan, or the Supreme Personality of Godhead, is opulent in all excellence. No one can be equal to or greater than him. This is also confirmed in the Bhagavad Gita, where the Lord says, Mattah paratram nanyat. O conqueror of wealth, Arjun, there is no truth superior to me. There are many other verses which prove that the absolute truth in the ultimate sense is understood to be the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna. So absolute truth, the ultimate absolute, supreme truth is Krishna himself. Bhagavan, not Brahmjyoti, not Paramatma. There are 3 aspects of Krishna, but of them, Krishna himself says in Bhagavad Gita, Mattah paratram nanyat. There is no one superior to me. No truth superior to me. But Mayavadis still says, oh, in the end it's all light and Brahmjyoti is ultimate. No. Tahara vibhuti deha sava chidakar, chid vibhuti achari, tare kahe nirakar. Everything about the Supreme Personality of Godhead is spiritual, including his body, opulence, and paraphernalia. Mayavad philosophy, however, covering his spiritual opulence, advocates the theory of impersonalism, nirakar. It is stated in Brahma Samhita, Ishvara Parama Krishna Sachidananda Vigraha. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, has a spiritual body which is full of knowledge, eternity, and bliss. In this material world, everyone's body is just the opposite, temporary, full of ignorance, and full of misery. Therefore, when the Supreme Personality of Godhead is sometimes described as Nirakar, this to indicate that he does not have a material body like us, but he definitely is Sakar. And his Sakar is, or his body or his form is made of Sat, Chit and Ananda, not like us. Mayavadi philosophers do not know how it is that the Supreme Personality of Godhead is formless. The Supreme Lord does not have a form like ours, but has a spiritual form. Not knowing this, Mayavadi philosophers simply advocate the one-sided view that the Supreme Godhead of Brahman is formless, Nirakar. In this connection, Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur offers many quotes from the Vedic literature. If one accepts the real or direct meaning of these Vedic statements, one can understand that the Supreme Personality of Godhead has a spiritual body, Sat Chit Ananda Vigraha. But this is where people in general, they get confused. They're like, how can the Supreme Lord have a body? Because they think body means just like we have the body. He has a body. Yes, he has a body, but the body is made of Sat Chit and Ananda. Not like us, made of earth, water, fire, air, ether. But then they get confused. Then they say, what is this deity form? What is that? Isn't that made of wood or marble or brass? Well, Krishna has agreed to come in a deity form to give us an opportunity to serve him. How are we going to see a body made of Sat, Chit and Ananda and serve him? Of course, when Krishna comes in the deity form, as a deity, he is spiritual. It's not material anymore. It looks to us material. He is completely spiritual. That's why bhakti process is not that easy to understand. People say, oh, you are just sentimentalist, you don't. First of all, it's not easy to have faith in the deity form, faith in the Vaishnava scriptures, and then to make progress. It's not that easy. And deity form of Krishna, Radha and Krishna, especially for devotees, because normally people go to the temple just to ask for something material. That's it. But here we go, or we have deities at home, our purpose is to serve him. Whether we ask something material, that's besides the point. Because Krishna himself says in Bhagavatam, Akama sarva kama va moksha kama bhakti. Just those who are very intelligent, even if they have no desires, all material desire, or desire for liberation, just serve the Supreme Lord Krishna. He'll take care of the desires, how much to fulfill and how much to remove from our heart. But there is a huge difference between a devotee approaching a deity and just a regular person approaching a deity. Their mood is only to ask for something material, some material. And devotee mood of approaching is, I want to do some service. I want to serve. Huge difference, huge. But to come to that level, it's not that easy. In the Brihad Aranyaka Upanishad, it is said, Purna Mada Purna Midam Purna Purna Mudachyate. This indicates that the body of the Supreme Personality of Godhead is spiritual, for even though he expands in many ways, he remains the same. In the Bhagavad Gita, Lord says, Aham sarvasya prabhavo matta sarvam pravartati. I am the origin of all. Everything emanates from me. Mayavadi philosophers materialistically think that if the Supreme Truth expands himself in everything, he must lose his original form. Thus they think that there cannot be any form other than the expansive, gigantic body of the Lord. So this is what they say. Krishna says, everything comes from me, means he must have lost his original form. Why? When Brihad Aranyaka Upanishad says, and Isha Upanishad has a similar verse, Purnat Purnam Idam Purnat Purnam Udachyate. He is always Purna. Although he expands in many ways, he keeps his original personality. His original spiritual body remains as it is. So from Purna comes out many Purnas, many complete, and still the original Purna remains. That is spiritual mathematics, not material. Mayavadis think in terms of material math. If you take 1 out of 1, then there's 0 left. 1 minus 1 is 0. Spiritual world, 1 minus 1 is 1 and 1 plus 1 is also. Similarly, elsewhere it is said, Vichitra Shakti Purusha Puran. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, the original person, Purusha, has multifarious energies. And the Shveta Upanishad declares, Savriksha Kala Kritibhi Paro Anyo Yasmat Prapancha Parivartate Ayam Dharmavaham Papanandam Bhagesham. He is the origin of material creation, and it is due to him only that everything changes. He is a protector of religion and annihilator of all sinful activities. He is the master of all opulences. And then Shruta Upanishad further says, now I understand the Supreme Personality of Godhead to be the greatest of the great. He is effulgent like the sun and is beyond this material world. Further, Patim Patinam Paramam Parastat. He is a master of all masters, the superior of all superiors. So this can only happen if he is a person, master of all masters. Brahm Jyoti cannot be master of all masters. Or Mahan Prabhu Vai Purusha. He is a supreme master and supreme person. Parasya Shaktir Vividhe Vishruyate. We can understand his opulences in different ways. Similarly, in Rig Veda, it is stated, Tad Vishnu Parvam Padam Sada Pashyanti Surya. Vishnu is the supreme, and those who are actually learned think only of his lotus feet. In the Prashna Upanishad, it is said, Sa Iksham Chakra. He glanced over the material creation. So when he says he glanced over his lotus feet, means it's a person. He hears, he accepts our offerings. He is a person. So it is said he glanced over the material creation, or he created this entire material world. Thus, many verses can be quoted from the Upanishads and Vedas, which prove that the Supreme Godhead is not impersonal. It's a person. In the Katha Upanishad, it is also said, Nitya Nityanam Chetna Chetnam. He is a supreme, eternally conscious person who maintains all other living entities. From all these Vedic references, one can understand that the absolute truth is a person and that no one can equal or excel him. Although there are many foolish Mayavadi philosophers who think that they are even greater than Krishna. Krishna is asamavitava. No one is equal to or above him. Asamavitava. Or some or uddhava means equal or better than. So as stated in Shvetashvatar Upanishad, Apani Pado Javano Grihita. This verse describes the absolute truth as having no legs or hands. Means he has no material legs or hands. Although this is an impersonal description, it does not mean that the absolute personality of Godhead has no form. He has a spiritual form that is distinct from the forms of matter. In this verse, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu clarifies this distinction. Chidananda teho tar sthana parivar, tare kahe prakrita satvera vikar. The Supreme Personality of Godhead is full of spiritual potencies. Therefore, his body, name, fame, and entourage are all spiritual. The Mayavadi philosopher, due to ignorance, says that these are all merely transformations of the material mode of goodness. So this is what they believe. This is all transformation. It's whatever we see is all made of Maya, the Supreme God, or descriptions, whatever we have. That's not true. In the 7th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, the Supreme Personality of Godhead has classified his energies in two distinct divisions, namely Aprakrit and Prakrit, or Para Prakriti and Apara Prakriti. In the Vishnu Puran, the same distinction is made. The Mayavadi philosophers cannot understand these two Prakritis or natures, material and spiritual. But one who is actually intelligent can understand them. Considering the many varieties and activities in material nature, why should the Mayavadi philosopher deny the spiritual varieties of the spiritual world? But this is where they are wrong, completely wrong. Bhagavatam says, Ye are anya arvindaksha vimuktamani tvayasta bhavat avishuddha buddhaya. The intelligence of those who think themselves liberated but have no information of the spiritual world is not yet clear. In this verse, the term avishuddha buddhaya refers to unclean intelligence. Due to unclean intelligence or a poor fund of knowledge, the Mayavadi philosophers cannot understand the distinction between material and spiritual varieties. Therefore, they cannot even think of spiritual varieties because they take it for granted that all variety is material. So, spiritual world, to understand anything about spiritual world, we have to have the mercy of the Lord. Without that, we cannot. Even the Mayavadi scholars, philosophers, they study the same scriptures. They cannot understand the variety of the spiritual world or the life in the spiritual world or the spiritual persons having spiritual forms, especially the Supreme Lord. It's just the mercy part is missing. They cannot understand. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu therefore explains in this verse that Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, or the Absolute Truth, has a spiritual body that is distinct from material bodies, and thus his name, abode, entourage, and qualities are all spiritual. The material mode of goodness has nothing to do with the spiritual varieties. Mayavadi philosophers, however, cannot clearly understand spiritual varieties. Therefore, they imagine a negation of the material world to be the spiritual world. So, negation of material world means if we have so much of variety in the material world, means spiritual world might not have varieties or cannot have varieties. There are so many problems, miseries in the material world, so spiritual world means no miseries. So this is just logic that they give. But this is not how we study or understand scriptures by our logic. The material qualities of goodness, passion, and ignorance cannot act in the spiritual world, which is therefore called nirguna. Nirguna doesn't mean no qualities there. Nirguna means no material qualities there. The material world is a manifestation of the three modes of material nature. But one has to become free from these three modes to come to the spiritual world, where their influence is completely absent. So there are no material modes. It's all transcendental, divine, spiritual. But there is still the activities. It's not like everybody is sitting on a cloud, and just like in Christianity they show, sitting on a cloud and playing some musical instrument. No. There are plenty of activities. There are fights also. But these are just love fights between Krishna and maybe Gopas. They fight. But Krishna, you cheat. We're not going to let you play with us. So, but that is all transcendent. That's what Mayavadi philosophers cannot understand. How is it possible? Rather than getting angry at Krishna. Anger, we can say it's mode of passion. Yeah, yes, it is mode of passion, but it's spiritual mode of passion. In the end, spiritual world, everything, even the modes, even the time, the change of the season, everything is there to serve Krishna. And that's why it becomes transcendental. Here it's different. Like someplace I was reading that in the spiritual world there is also rain. There is a rainy season, autumn season, summer season, winter season, but they all are there to serve Krishna. And if the rain is there, and suppose some associate of Krishna does not want to get wet, so he will not get wet. Because rain is there to serve Krishna. And if that associate thinks or if his service is such that he doesn't want to get wet, he will not get wet. So rain is not there to hamper his service. Rain is there to enhance the service for the pleasure of Krishna. It's different, completely different, yes. But this is how it has been explained. For us, it might just be a theoretical knowledge, but we have faith. Okay, it is theoretical knowledge. When we are eligible, it will be revealed to us. That's so I guess I'll stop here because the theme is going to change a little from next verse onwards. So we'll stop here. See anybody has any questions or comments? Okay. You all have a safe and wonderful day. Hare Krishna. Jai Shri Prabhupada.
Hare Krishna. Thank you,